This week, the list of countries not threatening to blow each other up is getting even smaller. Russia is pissed, North Korea is still in a dick-measuring contest even though no one else is playing, the US dropped a huge bomb on Afghanistan, Iran's being pissy, and Syria's government allegedly bombed more of its citizens while simultaneously claiming that the gas attack was a false flag. In times like these, who should Americans trust? Definitely not the people behind social media, because YouTube and Facebook are still censoring the crap out of me, and I can almost guarantee that YouTube will be shaking their finger at me for this video by tomorrow morning. Yeah! But this stuff is important, so you know what? I'm gonna keep talking about it. First and foremost, North Korea has warned the world that a big event is near, which, knowing North Korea, could be anything from a nuclear test to the discovery of a unicorn. But most bets are on North Korea's 6th nuclear test since 2006. Now, I know this is just another part of the big back and forth that's been going on for basically forever, but I'm sorry, North Korea is scary. The Guardian reported on Thursday that satellite images showed the test site was being prepared and was buzzing with new activity. Coded radio signals are also coming out of the region as of Friday morning, but that doesn't necessarily mean much because it's very outdated. It's believed the test is scheduled as part of the Day of the Sun celebration, a holiday honoring founder Kim Il-sung's birthday, because nothing says Make-A-Wish like nuclear fallout. Many officials suggest it's just another step in a passive-aggressive pissing contest, but NBC News reported on Thursday evening that U.S. officials are considering a first strike against North Korea if Pyongyang goes ahead with the test. 2 U.S. destroyers are prepped and ready to go off the North Korean coast, and North Korea responded in kind by threatening a devastating nuclear war, which is kind of what they always do, so it's to be expected, but it's still pretty freaky. Nonetheless, U.S. officials say they don't believe North Korea has a deliverable long-range nuclear weapon yet. Meanwhile, South Korea insists the U.S. would check with them first and wouldn't do anything without their approval, but they don't sound that convincing. China has stepped in by turning away North Korean coal, and Trump tweeted after a meeting with Chinese officials that he believes China will be able to keep North Korea in check, but did say that if China couldn't get the job done, the U.S. would go it alone, and let's be real, the U.S. is kind of developing a pattern here. What is worrisome, though, is Japan's Prime Minister insisting that North Korea is, at the very least, capable of attacking the country with a missile loaded with sarin gas. And remember, sarin gas is what started that whole hullabaloo with Syria last week. The threat of a preemptive strike just so happened to be on the same day that the U.S. dropped the mother of all bombs on Afghanistan, where the U.S. targeted underground facilities thought to be used by ISIS. The bomb was expected to take out between 600 and 800 ISIS fighters, but instead killed 36. The MOAB is the most powerful non-nuclear bomb in America's arsenal. Oh, and Obama authorized the military to explore its use in 2016. On the Syria front, the U.S. says it has given Assad a warning against future use of chemical weapons, stating the U.S. would take further military action. Congressional war hawks are pushing for military interference, while Russia is issuing stark warnings of hell no, please don't go. Meanwhile, MSNBC's Lawrence O'Donnell entertained the theory this week that it was actually Putin behind the gas attack in Syria, just so that Trump could fly missiles and all the glorious pomp and circumstance that comes with humanitarian aid. He compared it to a similar conspiracy theory that Bill Clinton had fired missiles in the 1990s in an effort to distract the public from his own scandal at the White House, which is really not all that far-fetched. Indeed, CNN reported last Saturday that the Department of Defense plans to investigate whether Syria was involved in the gas attack, as it seems Russian drones were spotted on site, though Syrian forces are also known to utilize Russian equipment. On Tuesday, the White House accused Russia of trying to cover the whole thing up. Sean Spicer criticized Russia's relationship with Syria in a press conference this week, asking Russia what side of history they want to be on, by comparing current events to the Holocaust and saying,
"You had someone as despicable as Hitler, who didn't even sink to using chemical weapons."
Rex Tillerson, too, suggested Russia better pick sides or get off the playground. Interesting developments in the Trump-Russia department this week. Turns out Judge Napolitano was right when he said it was British spy agencies that first spied on Trump and just handed the info over to American intelligence, as reported by both CNN and The Guardian. This apparently began back in 2015, and though Trump wasn't specifically being targeted, anything with his name on it was just kind of passed along to US officials. One source even called the British spy agency the principal whistleblower in the Trump-Russia investigation. The big story all over the internet this week was the passenger who was literally dragged off a United Airlines flight that the airline claimed was overbooked. Well, it turns out that that wasn't true. The flight was filled, yes, but not overbooked. Instead, the airline was kicking passengers off to accommodate 4 crew members. No one volunteered to leave the flight, so the airline just picked who to kick. They say that they asked passengers to leave, but asking implies that someone can say no. And 3 went with no problem, but the 4th, David Dow, refused on the basis that he's a doctor and had dire patients he needed to return to for the next morning. Instead, he ended up in an area hospital with a concussion and broken nose. The airline CEO issued a public apology on Monday, but sent an internal letter to all employees praising their behavior in dealing with what he called a disruptive and belligerent passenger, except videos of the events leading up to the incident don't show someone belligerent or disruptive at all. As an interesting aside, it has also come out that in 2014, the airline promised federal regulators that all ticketed passengers were guaranteed their flight. United has since apologized for having to reaccommodate passengers with police violence. But how about some lighter news? Clemson University's diversity initiative has decided that expecting students to arrive to class on time is flat-out colonialism and imperialism because some cultures view time as relative, which kind of sounds backdoor racist. All faculty and staff are encouraged to take a new online diversity training that basically tells people to be aware that punctuality is not more valid than lateness, that diversity training is not just PC bullshit, that diversity training is in fact necessary to be good little humans, and that freedom of speech is limited to language that isn't offensive. Shia LaBeouf has nothing to do with liberty, but at this point he is the poster child for the will and power of the internet. His newest project, #AloneTogether, features him and his 2 fellow artists squirreling themselves away alone in hidden cabins in Finland. All 3 are apparently connected to the world by live streams pointed at each of their faces and have no other access to the internet. People can communicate with them through another cabin in a museum in Helsinki. 4chan is already on task going to the museum to mess with him and working on finding his location. Shia is already showing signs of frustration, ranting that people on 4chan can't get laid, which inevitably leads them to fascism. Supposedly, this rant was a direct quote from a series of tweets by a furry Twitter account, which raises a whole host of other awkward questions. A British media outlet launched a petition this week to stop Google and Facebook from destroying journalism by stealing all the ad revenue, which is funny because the big media outlets are the only ones not getting screwed by YouTube's new ad policies and Facebook's fake news censorship. The petition is demanding that Google and Facebook change their ad revenue systems because traditional news publishers aren't able to compete and will inevitably shut down, and that, of course, would be devastating to society. Also, the Libertarian Party's social media team apparently thought it prudent to quote the Church of Satan on their Facebook in the middle of Holy Week, and that, ladies and gentlemen, is why we never get 5% of the vote. That concludes your Liberty-related news for the week. Please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe if you're over on YouTube, or throw me some upvotes if you're on VidMe. And if you really like my videos and want to help me spread the message of liberty while also giving a middle finger to YouTube and Google censorship, you can also help support me on Patreon. Until next week, thanks for watching and helping to keep the message of liberty alive.